I would like to take the opportunity to give you a little bit more insight in my 3-day information strategy workshop, Managing Information as an Asset. The idea of setting up the 3 days is to really say what are the skills and the knowledge that you need to have to help your organization to be more information centric. So we split up the course or the workshop into 3 different slots, 3 different topics. The first one is day number 1, where we are really going to focus on what it takes to sustain big, within brackets, information strategy. Because there's a number of things that you need to think about. When you start putting information at the heart of your organization, what does it take you to actually start doing this? And one of the questions that people are often struggling with is, how can we make this not so much a discussion on what kind of technical capabilities that we want? So the ultimate question is, do I need 1 data lake or 2 or 3? Do I still need an ODS? They're all kind of interesting questions, but more fundamentally is, how will this support my business strategy? How will this link to what my company wants to achieve as an end result? So the first day is really going to focus on what it really means to have an information strategy and how you can define that, because you will see that there's many definitions out there on what an information strategy really is. But at the end of the day, the question is, how do I make sure that I can sell this to my board, and how can I build up a business case that allows me to support information throughout the entire life cycle, basically saying from the point that we create it or that we onboard it in an organization, through the use of the information within the different business processes, or to make better decisions, and at the end of the day also to dispose it so that we don't keep data longer than is actually necessary. So the breakdown of the first day is essentially that, to see what do we have to look at from a compliance point of view, what happens with General Data Protection Regulation, but also other things like BCBS 239 if you're into banking, if you're in insurance. In every industry, basically today, there is more and more rules that need to be followed that have a direct impact on how you organize yourself and how you manage data and work with data. So that's essentially the point of day number 1, to say, what is the business strategy, how can we translate this into an information strategy, and what does it take me to be compliant and to have an organizational structure that can actually be sustained. Then, if we want to roll this out, then we really need to start looking at what roles and responsibilities needs to be put in place, and how we manage definitions, how do we manage information models, how do we manage essentially our information governance structure. Do we put a CDO in place? Do we have a data office? What kind of roles and organizational structures do we have to have? That's essentially the scope of day number 2, when we look at taking the strategy and embedding the strategy in the organization from a roles and responsibilities point of view. Looking at day number 3, there we're going to focus more on what it takes from a master data management point of view, because master data management and reference data management are really key of even having a big data strategy work. Because if you don't have a clue on what the different things are and how they evolve, you will never be able to take decisions that can be trusted and that are not to be seen as alternative facts, but actually something that you can rely on, that it works. So what we're going to do in day 3, to look at the MDM, is not to look at every single product that is in the market, because that would not be a very interesting exercise, but more to look at what of the different patterns are out there that can be used. Because in practice you will notice that handling party, handling location, handling agreement, handling product are going to require different approaches. Especially also if you might be in an environment where you are very strongly driven by an ERP or PLM or whatever, that could be quite different from an environment where you are more into an analytical space, or where you are going to build some of your own applications, or even try to deploy microservices, which is a way of potentially also using DevOps, which is a different way of approaching things. So at the point that's the reason that I've chosen the route here to look at the 3rd day, to really start looking more at what are the patterns and try to understand how the different vendors look at the different patterns. So we're looking at MDM from a multi-domain perspective, looking at what the industry does and what solutions are out there, but then also essentially spend quite some time on to look at the project delivery. Because very often what happens with MDM projects is that they essentially fail due to lack of proper scoping, due to the fact that we haven't been able to deal with data migration in a quite effective way. So combined, those 3 days give you all the elements that you need to have, both from a technical understanding, but also from an organizational understanding and from a project approach on how you can make your information more at the core and at the heart of your organization, so that you can essentially start using it as an asset, with all the necessary pointers to more of the technology side, such as big data, data lakes being put in place, and also optimizing your data processing and data quality throughout the lifecycle of the application. The ideal audience, or the target audience, for the 3 days is a bit of a mix, because as we are not going to make this a very deep and purely technical discussion, anybody that on the business wants to understand how data can be used more effectively, information architects, potential future chief data officers, and anybody that is essentially working with data can benefit from these 3 days. You can enroll on the 3 days separately, but you can also go throughout the 3 days and really go back with all the knowledge and the background that you need to be effective in your organization and to be able to execute whatever your information strategy is going to be. I'm looking forward to meeting you at one of the upcoming sessions. Have a look at the hyperlink that is posted with this video to see where and how you can follow those 3 day sessions. Have a nice day, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in the workshop.